You know, he's really he's shameless in intellectual argument. He's absolutely without character, or moral foundation, or even intellectual substance.
I did the 4 hours with Glenn the other weekend or whatever. So
Yeah, that was cool.
yeah,
I actually don't know much about the Rolling Stones. I think this is something that you kind of, I don't know if you guys touched on this or not, but like, I feel like families are either Beatles or Rolling Stones families. You know, like how there's
really?
that, do you know how there's like that stupid rivalry that people make
Oh
up?
yeah, yeah.
But I think that's actually just in like what families mostly listen to because we hardly ever listened to the Rolling Stones. It was always the Beatles. I think the Rolling Stones were a bit too like, out there for my normie conservative parents, but the Beatles were all right, like
Well, we touched on that a little bit, like just that the Stones are the Black Lodge Beatles, and that was like
Mm.
intentional. Like they had this manager, Andrew Luke Oldham, who basically was like would call the press to get like when they were gonna like trash a hotel room or something, so that they would get like they'd be with these naughty boys and like he'd like coined the thing like, would you let your daughter marry a stone or whatever, like so he was intentionally like making them, but it seems like so timid. Like now it's just like they had food fights and like they urinated in public, or like not even in public but or whatever, like and then like they did drugs or whatever, like it's also tame like compared to now.
mm,
But the Stones family versus Beatles family though wasn't my experience. Like my dad liked both of them and played them
mm.
both. So, um, but yeah, I mean, there's a whenever bands are like similar, there's usually someone has their favorite, and then it's like a sports
Yeah.
team thing where it's like you just argue over which one's
Well,
better.
yeah, my dad had like such a weird music thing. Like he loved like the Beatles, and then just like random shit that like your usual boomer stuff that they
Yeah, yeah,
love,
yeah.
but then
Creedence.
he would have like, and this is like goes to my dad's sort of like very comfortable masculinity where he also loved unashamedly like loved ABBA.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah.
and like the Seekers and stuff like that, I
Well,
find
my mum likes both those bands,
yeah,
ABBA and
yeah,
the Seekers.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And they got some bangers, both of
Oh
them.
yeah.
So yeah.
ABBA for sure. The Seekers
Mm.
I find a bit depressing to listen to.
They are.
Because
Hey there, Georgie
that's like
girl.
their most happy
Yeah, yeah,
song. Yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah. But yeah, I love that. But yeah, we didn't really have much Stones in our house. They're a bit too out there, man.
Yeah. They're too satanic.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, they had that association with Kenneth Anger, didn't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And they have
Bobby
an album called
Beausoleil or whatever.
Their Satanic Majesty's Request, but it's
Mm,
like a riff on the like what's on a passport. It's like Her Britannic Majesty's Request or whatever. And like they were sort of leaning into the idea, like the media was calling them like Satanists and stuff like that too.
mm.
So, but yeah, I think they got like scared off after like hanging out with Kenneth Anger and some bad shit happening. I think like by the 70s, they were like, yeah, nah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, Kenneth Anger is like a kind of cringe with the whole Satanism. Imagine being a Satanist into your fucking 90s. Like that is so lame.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't fully understand like if you
Mm,
believe in Satan choosing that side. Like I
mm,
understand the like atheist libtard Satanists who they're just like it's just a symbol of like it's
mm,
like an inversion of Western values or whatever. Like and it's just like we're gonna like freak out the normies and the
mm,
conservatives and stuff. Like I understand that more than someone who's like I literally believe in Satan and I'm like gonna worship him and all of that and do black masses and things like. I'm like, aren't you like scared that something
mm,
bad's gonna happen?
mm, mm. Yeah, that's what I always think. Yeah, it always That's why I'm really not interested in any of that magic with a K stuff. And,
Yeah.
some friends of ours are into it, and that's fine. But like, nah, not for me.
Yeah, it's same. I'm interested in like reading about it and stuff, but like any of the like rituals and spells and getting too into it, yeah, it starts to creep
Yeah,
me out a bit.
yeah, I like reading about it too, like as like texture for because a lot of literary artistic movements were actually there was an
Mm,
undercurrent, especially in the 20th century, of a lot of occult shit.
for
Like that
sure.
just goes unremarked upon in sort of like your standard critical or academic realms. Like for instance, is it Yeats who was like an occultist as well? And just and
Yeah, I think he was in the Golden Dawn.
yeah, and I remember doing like a whole like thing on Yeats in undergrad. Was it undergrad or postgrad? I can't remember. I've studied too much in my life. But I remember doing a whole thing about him. Just never mentioned. It was just like all about the poetry, which it should be. But then just like that's kind of an interesting thing that you should kind of cover. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's like pretty common like when you like start reading about it, you start thinking back to like whatever albums you listen to, and then you start realizing like how many bands and stuff have like had like, and maybe all they did was just like dabble a little bit or read a couple of books about it, but like the because the imagery is cool, and like obviously with like heavy metal and stuff they really got like the imagery, they got it with all the pentagrams and all of that sort of stuff, like they took like a lot of influence from it. So but like it's sort of like once you like read a bit about it, you start like realizing like how it's sort of everywhere and how much like how many people have been like influenced by it.
Mm, yeah. Yeah, it is definitely kind of an influential sort of way of uh interpreting the world, especially in the
Mm.
20th century.
Well, it's even like to go way back to like Pythagoras, you know what I mean?
Mm,
Like
mm,
it's like he was like, very like the people used to think like, oh, like the formulas for triangles or whatever, but I mean like that was all just part of his greater like worldview, and it was very like I mean, I wouldn't have used the word occult at that stage or whatever, but it was like, like a initiating people into his order, and he had like
mm.
like numbers were like sacred, and like he was trying to like, discover like not just mathematical rules, but like spiritual, like I don't
Yeah.
know, I'd have to look into it more to say something more intelligent about it. But it's like, you know what I mean? Like no one, when you learn it in school, they don't go, like this guy was like a fucking magician.
He was a mathemagician.
Yeah. Oh God.
So, have you ever played that Assassin's Creed game, the Odyssey one, the ancient Greek one?
I've only played like the first one, I think is the only one I've ever
Yeah, yeah.
played.
Anyway, it has this annoying thing in it. I haven't played it in years, but I didn't play through all of it. But it has this annoying thing in the game where they pronounce everything in like the proper Greek way, even though they're speaking
Uh,
English. So
yeah,
someone is like referring to Pythagoras, and it's like Pythagoras, or
yeah,
like it's just like stop that. Or
yeah,
Socrates is actually a character in it. It's like
yeah,
Socrates, and it's just like, come on, it's not SBS, it's a video game.
yeah. It's like I know like Cicero is actually meant to be pronounced like Kikero or
Mm,
Kigero or something like that. But it's like
mm.
if you said that in a sentence, you're like, oh, you've ever read Kikero? Like people wouldn't know what you're talking about. Like, you know what I mean? You're just
Sounds like
like,
some
yeah,
like French nativist or something like that who's
yeah.
written some really racist book, Kikero.
Well, I think that's part of the reason why it's like Cicero is like the French with the C being
Mm,
able to be pronounced like an S, and I think then a lot of things got like transliterated a lot. Like you even see the influence in like Russian and stuff like that, where certain words you can tell it like was taken from the French, and then they weren't sure or whatever, like if the C was meant to be pronounced as a K or not, and so that
mm,
it just got like Sified. Um,
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's weird. But anyway, we should probably get on to talking about the
yeah.
book.
I was gonna say we did have a good like little
A
segue
little.
before, because this book is kind of like has a lot of like a lot more magic in it than I was expecting.
That's true. It is a bit of a magical realism, but not in the kind of like annoying abuela's tortillas sort of thing way,
No.
but like a little bit of that kind of the different worlds that think in different ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, this week we are doing Remembering Babylon by David Malouf. So David Malouf recently passed away. He's a kind of famous Australian writer, wrote a heap of books. His first love was poetry though, and he actually stopped writing books in, I think his last like prose work in terms of fiction was Ransom, which was like his retelling of the Iliad. And that's a really interesting book as well. That's one of my favorites of his, which we should probably do. It's sort of similar to this one in that like it's gives you multiple kind of like perspectives on, in an area, So this has got like the town, and you get like lots of different perspectives from the different characters. Almost a sort of Faulkner kind of vibe there with like the little town and everything. But he did that with the Iliad as well. So you focus on Achilles, then a lot of the book is focused on King Priam of Troy, and so I really like that book. So I'll have to do that book
Okay.
eventually. Um, but yeah, David Malouf he was one of Australia's best, I think, in at least in the 20th century. He has a sort of like what I love about him is he's so old school as well. He was 90 something when he died recently, so he's been around for a while. But what I love about him is that he never actually properly learned to type. So he always hand wrote his manuscripts and then got someone to type it up and print it
Oh
out,
wow.
and like you know he sort of did his drafts that way, which I think is a really cool little kind of detail about him. He also is a Brisbane born and bred. Um, I think he was born in Brisbane. Yeah, he was. Um, and sort of, he used to live, which in an area where you're quite familiar with, Fresta, because of music. He used to live on, is it Edmonton Street down near West End, sort of South Brisbane way near like Melbourne Street and
Yeah, I
like
think I know
that
what you're talking about.
area.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
something like that.
So yeah,
Yeah.
his family used to have a shop there, and they basically lived on that side of town. His first book, Jono, is like it's an Australian classic, but it's also a great like depiction of Brisbane in like
Mm.
the I think post-war years. Like it's about sort of two brother. I think it's brothers. I think it's brothers. It's been a little while since I read it,
Mm.
but so there's the two main characters, but then like Brisbane's like the third character, which is really cool.
Okay.
Because Brisbane is not. It's not a literary city in the sense that
Yeah,
not
yeah.
many people write about it, Like there's Jono, there's another one,
Zigzag Street.
Zigzag Street is the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never
So
read that.
yeah, so that's about it. He died with a falafel in his hand, I think is Brisbane.
I thought that was more of a Melbourne thing.
Was it? Well, it's written by a Brisbane guy.
The guy,
Birmingham.
I remember he came to my school when I was like a teenager.
Hmm.
Can't remember his name. But
John Birmingham.
that's it, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd like seen the movie in like the video store, but it was always like, what the fuck's a fell? Like, I just remember thinking that like I was very much like, if I didn't like the title of a movie or the cover, like I was just like, I would just like skip a movie forever. Like I'd be like, I don't know, or if I just didn't understand it, when you just look at something like, yeah, I don't know what's going on with that. Next, like so that was one
Yeah,
of those
yeah.
movies I was always like skipping past, and then I eventually came to the school and did the talk, and then I think I watched it, and I was like, oh yeah, it's all right,
Mm.
junkies and stuff like that. Um,
Yeah, that's a real subgenre in Australian literature, junkies. Grunge lit
yeah,
is usually called.
yeah.
Um, and some of it's good, but
Yeah.
I have my complaints. But yeah, so Remembering Babylon is essentially it's sort of based on a true story actually, where a kind of this is in the 19th century, a kind of someone who fell overboard on a ship off the coast of Queensland, a kind of cabin boy or whatever you call them, like a deckhand or whatever. He gets washed over in a storm or whatever, and gets taken in by a group of Aboriginals and sort of lives among them for many years. And because he's a kid, he kind of adapts to their way of life or whatever, kind of goes native. And this is it sort of follows along, like t takes the sort of basis of it. It's based on that kind of story, and he even takes the name of the person that is based on as well, um, and sort of spins it off out of there. But yeah, so the guy get the kid Jemmy. Is it Jemmy or Gemmy, do you think? I was
Well,
thinking
the
Jemmy.
audiobook said Jemmy,
Did it?
so
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is it spelled with a G?
Yeah. So
Okay.
Jemmy.
All right.
I say Jemmy.
Yeah.
And if the audiobook says Jemmy, I'm assuming that was David Malouf approved. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Jemmy, uh, yeah, he lives among the Aboriginals. You don't really see a lot of that, except in like flashbacks and stuff, but it's more him coming back into like the white kind of civilization, so to speak, even though that's not very civilized either.
Yeah.
Um, because it's like, the when he was sort of washed overboard, the Queensland hadn't been settled yet. Like the settlers hadn't got that far north yet. So, but you know, the there are people who are beginning to sort of move in, and the kid recognizes them and sort of like presents himself to some kids playing in a field. And then it sort of just jumps off from there, and the kind of the townsfolk sort of like varying levels of acceptance or rejection with him, and it sort of meditates a lot on like civilization and savagery and like race as well, and all this sort of interesting stuff, but not in a way that would be, if this was published today, I hate to be that
Mm.
guy. But if this were published today, it would be a little bit sort of like more didactic, I think. Like
Yeah, yeah.
there'd be lessons to learn, and they'd be very, very overt.
And
Um,
like, yeah, and every if a character said something like even just when they say like blacks and stuff like
mm.
that, if it was done today, it would be like
Oh,
there'd be no nuance about how we like have to there'd be some like
there'd be footnotes.
yeah, or there'd be some like little girl who steps like Lisa Simpson's and is like they're actually whatever, it'd
Yeah,
be like yeah, it would be tedious. Like that's what I found refreshing about it was is it was just kind of like um just like was not brutal, but just sort of like
honest.
yeah, honest. I guess that's
Mm,
it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah. What's really funny about the copy that I got, because I picked this up in a Savers. Like we were thrifting the other day, just because sometimes we do that. Like, I'm not one of these people who goes thrifting for clothes because it just never works for me. I can never
Oh
find
yeah.
anything that like fits or whatever. But I do always go to the book section, and while Darren's off looking at things like clothes and stuff, I'm in the book section. And I found this. I was like, oh yeah, I'll get this. I've always wanted to read it. But this copy that I got has so many like underlines and like
Oh,
annotations. And like, so the first line is underlined. And I always love this. I love looking at people's stupid fucking annotations in books. Um, and this one's like, so the first line of the book is one day in the middle of the 19th century, uh, when settlement in Queensland had advanced little more than halfway up the coast, three children were playing at the edge of a paddock, and when they saw something extraordinary. The first clause of that sentence, one day in the middle of the 19th century, is underlined, and then they, someone's written in a comment, it says, um, very vague.
what?
And then later in the next page, when it's describing like what the children see. So this is the first instance of him mentioning like referring to Aboriginals as blacks, right? And so like yeah, they're like, I'll just read the sentence before it. It's like he struck he struck Mirage, and a thing of substance, elongated and airily indistinct, was bowling, leaping, flying towards them. A black. That was the boy's first thought. They've underlined a black. Like, but haven't written anything. It's just underlined, like as if
Yeah.
like, oh, I've got to remember to come back to this because, if this person is writing an essay or something for university, they're probably like, oh yeah, I've got to mention this, that he
It's
refers to
probably like it.
Aboriginals as
Are they
blacks.
underlining it every time? Like, are they just
Yeah,
counting?
probably. But yeah, that goes to the like the kind of like the sort of, and this is part of the problem, I think. And this part of the problem I've talked about this on podcasts. Me and you have talked about this on our podcast with Australian literature, but literature in general, where you're setting it's a period piece and you're dealing with contentious issues like this that are contentious now, right? And like things of historical, um, that is like historical fiction, right? And it's almost like people have a problem with it's almost like an audacity thing. Like, how could he? How could
Yeah.
he like describe this world in terms of the world that it actually was, rather
Yeah,
than
or
in
the way
some
they
way?
would have thought about it at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's I find that it makes it more immersive when
Mm.
they're like, you know what I mean? You watch any other thing if it's like they're in character and they're like meant to be like in London and whatever the Victorian era, you know what I mean? You want them to speak like how they would then. And same with this, like you don't want them to be like, oh, a person of color, you know, like
That'd be
uh
so funny. That'd actually
yeah.
be so funny if you did a book like this and
Yeah.
then like, sort of rejigged it with like modern lingo, but like in a satirical way. That'd be really funny.
Yeah. Yeah, like, oh, we're in Mean Gin and we saw a person of color. Um, and they were, yeah, it'd be just like, unless it's done in like you know, a funny kind of way, Jasper Ceylon kind of way. Like,
Mm,
yeah, it would just be nauseating to read that, and it would
mm,
just take you out of it because you'd just be like, oh, that's right, I'm alive in the 21st century. Like, you
mm.
just be like, whereas like you're reading this, you're like, you want to like for a minute, like pretend it is like the middle of the 19th century.
Yeah, and
Um,
I say that he's not like um you read this and it's very like people sort of modern people, probably mostly in Melbourne slash Nam, would probably have a problem with this. And like, but it's not actually as, kind
it's not
of,
edgy.
yeah, no, it's not edgy in any way. There are some slurs towards the middle end of the book, but that's because some guy is getting all worked up about, Jemmy being in cahoots with the blacks, like, and then
Yeah.
he's kind of getting worked up and like starts swearing and starts like, so there's a kind of like, and I think that's kind of, there's a kind of realism to that as well. Like,
Mm.
I don't imagine that people in the 19th century, kind of people mostly from English and Scottish stock were like going around dropping N bombs or whatever, just because, like I feel that there's a way that people like when they're trying to be edgy go way
Too
further,
hard. Yeah.
and it's just like, yeah, they call them blacks because that's what they called Aboriginals back then. Um, and and there's also like this a kind of nuanced view that is clearly very well researched as well about like how settlers and people sort of navigated their interactions with Aboriginal people in Australia, which is Australia's a very big place, and so like there's a lot of variation between contact between like, so it wasn't all like disease and war, and it wasn't all or massacres or like and it wasn't all like friendly happy kumbaya times either. There was like kind of a mix of
Mm.
both things, and a lot of like settlers, as you see, they discuss it, like they're talking about, should we kind of proceed with the softer way of dealing with the natives, or
Yeah.
should we kind of go in and go hard and things like that. So there's all these kind of discussions that are just, the refreshing thing about this book is it's just put all out before you, and it's just not like there's not, you don't feel like there's any side or footnotes or whatever that say like, now I'm describing this and you should read it in this way. He just sort of lets it speak for itself.
Yeah, and I think if you got half a brain, like it's you don't need any of that. It's pretty obvious, like yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I loved the description of Jemmy as well, especially when the Aboriginals find him, where they're and they're like he's covered in crabs and shit, and then they they're like pointing at his like little like
Oh
white
yeah,
slug,
white worm. Yeah.
and they're like, and then he's trying to speak or something, and then they all like laugh at him and stuff. It's really funny those little moments. Yeah, and it's just really th those sort of early parts are very kind of like they're very vivid, but they're also real. They have this dreamy, hazy quality as well,
Yes.
which I really
Yeah.
liked. Yeah.
Yeah, well that's when it gets into the sort of the magical, for lack of a better
Mm,
word, like way of it, where it's all about like like they'll like when he's like on the beach washed up and they're like they at first he can't see them because he's still trapped in like his old world of those spirits and then like then once he like they realize like he's starting to see them and then like later when he's talking about like taking that guy through the bush and he's like he can sense that there's like Aboriginals like watching them and stuff like that and he's like to them I would seem like this kind of spirit moving through the woods whereas the other white man would just seem like how the woods would see it like just like like just I guess um like their spirits less in harmony or something with the
mm,
like with the bush kind of thing like and says lots of things like that in the book where it's like these different ways of perceiving things and it sort of even just kept reminding me of that like that William Burroughs quote of like language is a virus from outer space because there's lots of just about like how language changes how you can perceive things and how they're there's constantly things about languages even down with the bees and stuff like that there's
mm,
just different things about how like yeah and like how it's like the other man's magic, like they get resentful when they hear Jemmy speaking in the Aboriginal tongue and stuff because it's like this like spell that they can't kind of like
mm,
decipher and
mm.
yeah.
And there's that scene with the stone as well, how the like
Yeah.
Aboriginals come in and give him a stone, and then like the townsfolk, I
Well, they didn't
forget.
even give it to him, right? Like the
Yeah,
guy just
yeah,
made it up.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. And then it's like, oh, what's going on there? Like, I think just because there was an interaction or something with them,
yeah.
um, and they make, and it's just really interesting, and way more interesting than any of the slop that you have that's like in current literature about racial politics because like you have someone who was like quite young, washed overboard, raised by Aboriginals, and it's kind of like is in this like between the world sort of thing. He comes back into the white world, isn't quite accepted, doesn't quite fit in because he's been so long with the blacks in quote in scare
Mm.
quote. That and he can't really go back to the Aboriginals either, like not in any sort of uh kind of neat way anyway. So like
Yeah.
there's this interesting interplay there that he kind of explores that just is sort of like I feel like there's a kind of nuance there and so there's interesting things to say about like belonging and culture and things like that, that would be, I feel, like be way more racialized now. And I think part of that is so this is like Australia in the before times. Like so this was published in 2008. No, when was it published? It was published in 1993 actually. So way
Okay.
before that. Um so this was in the before times, before this is such a like I hate like mentioning this because it puts me in league with people who do things like hate on America and be like those damn Yanks or whatever. But this is not what I'm saying. But like there is an Americanization of like the racial stuff in Australia that just doesn't map on. So like when because Americans like they have their whole like one drop thing and like that it's the like the blood rule, the quadroons and fucking shit like that because and it all comes from slave times or whatever I think like because it's like doing the kind of metrics of how much race is in which person or whatever. But we didn't really have that kind of thing in our country. But that a lot of those racialized ideas are imported into Australia, and like so it's a kind of modern book like this would import that kind of racialization in a way that's not exactly the same to our historical context, and it would be just really artificial, you know. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying that Aboriginals weren't racialized, so to speak, in Australia, but it's very different to America. Um, so yeah, I feel like yeah, this would be quite different if it were written in 2023 as opposed to 1993.
Yeah, yeah. And like it'd be insufferable, or if it was any good, it would just be like a Twitter book kind of thing. Like
Yeah.
maybe it'd be notorious in one like corner of Twitter or something like that.
Yeah, yeah. But there's just and this is what I mean about like the artificiality of these kind of racial politics or whatever, is that this is the sort of like book about this stuff that is good because what it does is um it just like I said, puts it all out in the open, all on the table. It doesn't sort of seek to educate you about anything. It's just sort of there's a humanity to it, like, and
Mm.
everyone's humanity, well, sort of warts and all, like, and so you get the kind of sort of backbiting townspeople. There's decent people there as well. Um, to the extent that the Aboriginal people can be known, there is not like it's not all good, it's not all bad either. It's just a very kind of like human literary depiction of this stuff that I found refreshing. So
Yeah.
you know, because yeah, what did you think going into this? Like we were like, uh-oh, Aboriginal
Um,
book.
no, no, it's more like just because the way like colonial times or whatever are taught at Australian schools, it's just in my mind just flicks the switch of just like
So
get
boring,
ready
isn't
for
it?
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, get ready to be super bored. Like
Mm.
that movie Rabbit Proof Fence or whatever, like I'm
Yeah.
just like and it was because like as a kid, you know, like you just like I don't want to read about some people wearing fucking itchy, hard spun clothes in a
In
dry,
40-degree weather. Yeah.
yeah, dusty, hot ass town with nothing to do. Like it's the boringest subject ever. So like, there's a part of my that I had to fight with to like you know, not just like zone out all the time with it.
Mm.
I actually read it, listened to it twice. Like today, I just double speeded it, double sped it, and like did the whole book again today because I kind of forgot some of it, and there was definitely
Mm.
bits I'd zoned out in the first. But yeah, like so I was like that subject for me is a bit boring, but like
Why do you think I don't think Australia's history is boring. I think Australia's history is really interesting. But there's this weird thing where the way it's taught is super
yeah,
boring. Like
that's what it comes down to for me.
it's like it's almost like they teach anything interesting that they teach, like I don't even remember if we learnt about Ned Kelly in history or whatever, but Ned Kelly's cool. Like
Yeah, yeah,
that sparks the kid's imagination because it's like rebellious. And for international listeners, Ned Kelly was like this what we call a bushranger, which is basically like a criminal who like
yeah.
sort of like lived in the bush
A
and like a
highwayman.
highwayman sort of thing. And Kelly is like famous for the armor that he fashioned. It's sort of like and he had this famous shootout where he wore this armor, but eventually got captured and hanged. Uh,
And his apparent famous last words was "such is
such is
life."
life. Yeah, yeah,
Many a tattoo.
yeah.
Uh,
Ben Cousins. Ben
and
Cousins
yeah,
had the such is life
yeah.
tattoo. Yeah,
Or
yeah,
you'll see like mud flaps on like
yeah,
a on a ute that'll have say "such is life" and a Southern Cross like will be
yeah,
somewhere. Uh,
yeah. So like there's this but yeah, so there's that. There's like, and there's so many bushrangers too, and like really interesting ones too. Like,
Mad
what's
Dog
his
Morgan.
Mad Dog Morgan? Um, Captain Moonlight, I think his name was. That was the gay one, wasn't it?
I didn't know this guy. No,
Yeah, there's a gay one.
it's a pretty gay
Moonlight,
name.
Moonlight or Midnight. I can't remember which one it was. It was one of those. And then there's all the Gold Rush stuff, like which is super
Yeah,
interesting. Especially if you live in Victoria, you can well, if you live in Melbourne, you can see it, or even in
yeah.
Ballarat. Ballarat was another big Gold Rush
Mm.
town. Like you can see the wealth that the Gold Rush brought in, like these beautiful like 19th century buildings, and you can see a lot of them in Melbourne CBD as well, but some of them have been knocked down, but some of them are still there. So, like, Melbourne was at one point the richest city in the world because of the gold rush here. So, there's all that interesting shit. There's heaps more interesting stuff in Queensland than we ever learned. There's also, like, not to be a libtard or whatever, but like the Aboriginal mythology is really fucking cool.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and we don't learn enough of it. Like, and I feel like so much of this stuff is, um, yeah, kind of papered over because you look. It's such a colonial mindset. You look to the history overseas or whatever. Like, we got to know how World War One started. We got to do World War Two, then the Cold War, and then it sort of all gets into like modern history and like American history as well and things like
I think
that.
it's just because it's so recent. Like, if you were in Greece, because you'd be like, well, the history is fascinating because it's like ancient. Well, because it's like, well, like there was like shit going on in the world in Europe and stuff like that. It was already like, ancient by that stage and had like all kinds of things and there's all kinds of technology and stuff. And it's like they just come to Australia. It's like, well, they just go start from scratch, and so they just
Yeah, yeah.
build like buildings on top of dirt and like slowly populate the place. And so and yeah, like again, it just comes down to the way it was taught for me at school. It was just like it's already fucking super hot here. I don't want to be like imagining it being hot and there being nothing to do. Like, like but like, once I sort of got into the book, and especially because, like I'm like a linguophile or whatever. So like once I started getting into all the language kind of things, I started finding it more interesting. And yeah, just it's like, reads really easily. It's not like experimental, even though the book it is a pretty weird book.
Mm,
Like, especially the way like you sort of like, all right, you think like this white guy's come into the community from the Aboriginal thing. You think like, all right, you sort of have an idea where it's going to go, but then it just goes off in different directions that you're
mm.
not expecting, and even like even like that sort of part of the story just kind of evaporates, and
Yeah.
it sort of just it's like I don't know, maybe I won't spoil anything if anyone wants to read it, but the way just sort of what ends up happening with Jemmy is kind of like not 100% clear, and like but it's like it's by that stage it's like you've almost forgot that like the book was about him, or like
Mm,
the start of it was, so
mm,
yeah, like I read it, I listened to it twice, so
mm.
yeah, I enjoyed it.
Do you think that's a almost uh, a kind of I don't know, a metaphor or analogy for, the Aboriginal kind of stuff like that. It just sort of, because that was like this is something you learn if you look into history as well, is that a big thing with the colonial and authorities and, even getting after, post Federation as well, when Australia became a country rather than a series of colonies, was that there was this idea that the Aboriginal people would just sort of like dissipate, like, and there was
Well, yeah, it
actually,
wasn't
yeah,
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 wasn't
sorry,
that the thing where they were like trying to like breed the black out of them? They were
yeah, yeah,
like,
yeah. There were like policies to do that, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Which is like,
um
again, that's a very different racial policy to like the US, where like there's and or South Africa or something like that, where you got
yeah,
like keeping them apart. It's like, no, we'll just breed with them sort of
yeah,
thing, which is interesting and also is another reason why importing American racial politics onto this just doesn't work. Like it's not the
yeah,
same thing. Um, so yeah, so it's interesting in that sense. But like, yeah, maybe it's a sort of like an idea of like this society that has come into this continent. There were, clans of people here and nations and things like that, and they the descendants of those people are still here, but they sort of like dissipated into our society as well. I don't know. Like maybe it's
Well, it
like
depends where you are. Like if
yeah.
here in Brisbane,
Oh yeah, yeah.
you
That's what
don't
I
see it,
mean.
but, like you don't see a lot of Aboriginals really. Like
Mm,
up north where I grew up, saw a lot more of them. But that's even then. Like there's other places like I'm imagining like Northern Territory and maybe some
mm.
other like more inland places where like it's even they're much more common and stuff. So it's it just sort of depends where you live in Australia, really. Like I'm
Yeah,
sure there's
yeah.
some towns where there's not a single Aboriginal or whatever, and
Yeah,
then there's
yeah.
other
Well,
towns with
yeah, Townsville definitely had a big
yeah,
population
yeah.
of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders. Speaking of which, Jack Norman just released a really good short story based on
Oh
that
yeah.
about a missing Aboriginal girl. I think it's set in Townsville. It's quite good, so I would
Oh yeah.
recommend that.
On his
Um,
Substack.
no, no, it's on a literary journal called The Burrow. I'll link it in the
Oh,
show
okay.
notes
All
for
right.
anyone who's interested. But it sort of does engage with some of these themes. Um, yeah, so like I also loved. There's some stuff here that I think um, another way that I think a lot of this would kind of make you know very sort of um, Melbourne cosmopolitan, libtard readers sit up and be like, oh no, I shouldn't be reading this. Is Malouf when he's describing not even just the Aboriginal people, but like when he's describing, just life, in very hard life in this area, it's so textural and so like sensory where like he's always talking about smells, for instance.
Yeah, yeah.
And you're just like, oh, this 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 seems bad. Like it seems like this place reeks, Like, and he
Yeah.
does that for like the Aboriginals and the white people as well. Like just a real good attention to those sort of sensory things that it just brings history alive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's something kind of like um when you get smell really when you do that really well in prose, I feel like there's something because it's such an abject, like offensive thing
Mm.
most of the time.
Yeah, it's never
Yeah.
like a nice smell.
Yeah.
It's always like yeah, something heinous.
Humanity, like yeah, like
Yeah.
reek, like that sort of stuff. Um, yeah, so who was your favorite character in this? Because there's
Oh,
a lot of characters.
yeah, it's hard to keep track of them. I think like the first time around, I was just like, fuck, I can't remember what everyone's name was. Like, I didn't even realize like that Lachlan was the same as the kid that came over from Scotland and was also the
Yeah.
same as the guy at the end of the book who was like getting like whatever, like ousted from his job for some reason. Um, so I mean, maybe him, I guess.
Mm. I
I don't
love
know.
that the George Abbott guy. Um,
Oh
the
yeah.
the guy who was like, thought he was so sort of like educated and stuff like that. He's like reading French, so he
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
flunked in French out in the outbacks just so he remembered it because he was always on to like going to he was always it was always like a stepping stone to something else, like
Mm.
going to Australia. Um so
And I
it's
think that
all
was also just to like accentuate how like there was just nothing going on here. Like there was
yeah.
no like culture or anything like that. It was like, even like the other Fraser or whatever, he was like wanted to go to Africa, to the dark
Mm,
continent. And
mm,
they're like, what about Australia?
mm.
And they're like, it's just as exciting. And then he's like, clearly like, this kind of sucks.
Yeah, there's nothing. It's funny. It's funny because whenever you go on like a road trip, especially in Queensland where this is set, where you're driving somewhere, like even if you drive from like Brisbane where you are up to, I don't know, where we used to live in the north, there are long stretches where there is absolutely nothing.
It's just
Like,
like burnt tree,
yeah,
fence, like tufts of grass.
yeah. It's just all flat,
Yeah.
just like brown grass. Absolutely
Yeah, I
nothing.
remember playing like I Spy, like when we'd like
Mm.
drive down to Brisbane and it was
And
just a
you're
lot
like, I
of
got
like
nothing.
yeah, well, it was a lot of the same shit. It was like a
Yeah.
lot of like I Spy, something beginning with T as a tree, yeah.
The
And like,
one tree, yeah.
and if anything interesting happened, it was like that was what you got. It was like, yeah, it was the like whatever, the horse, like
Mm. It gets a bit more interesting when you get further north, when you got like the rainforest and the
yeah, yeah.
cassowaries and things like
So
that.
that central
Um,
Queensland kind of stretch is
yeah,
like
yeah. It's
3 hours
nothing.
between each town, and like you, yeah, my memory of it is all like the same image, just
Mm.
like a fence with barbed wire, just
But can you
like
imagine? Yeah, like it is. You can tell there'd be nothing to do, but also, can you imagine the kind of person who did this?
yeah.
That's what I like. That is actually interesting. Like the kind of fucking insane person. It's like, all right, but I feel like I guess this book as well could
It seems like
sort.
a lot of like Scottish people and Irish people who didn't really know what they were getting into,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then they're
that's what I was
like,
gonna
this sucks.
say.
So,
Yeah. Um. And then just the sheer impossibility. I found that what was really funny about this was the sheer impossibility that so many of these people found with like making a life in this space in this place. There was just like um, oh, there is nothing to do. Um, and there's nothing to be. Like there's no society, there's no like there's not any sort of like real kind of social scene or whatever because it's such a tiny little town. It's not even a town, it's like just a settlement that's sort of
yeah,
outside of Bowen. Um,
there's not
and
much at Bowen
no,
nowadays.
yeah. Yeah. Although Bowen was where they like shot a lot of that film Australia, which I have
I've
not watched all the way through. So
I've never seen any of it, to be honest.
yeah. Yeah.
We should
Um
do it, maybe.
yeah, we should. I did want to do a like some more Baz Luhrmann because I like Baz Luhrmann. But yeah, so yeah, like just that kind of person. I think, like you said, a lot of people just didn't know what they were in for, but
Mm.
also the people who did know what they were in for and still went anyway are sort of like fascinating to me. Who signs up for this? You
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah.
Um,
I guess like it's like in those days too, where it was like, the British Empire were like expanding out, and there was all these like frontiers and like new places, excitement and stuff like that. I just think Australia was just like way too hot, way too like arid, and like at least like Africa would have at least had like lush green forests and like lots of like fruit and stuff like that. Whereas like Australia is like, well, whatever fruit that we had like wasn't identifiable to the
mm,
British, so they just like were starving. And like it's like when the Aboriginals come and see Jemmy, and like they have like a powwow or whatever, and they do like a spirit walk. It just
mm,
seemed like their like culture and like stuff was so much more sophisticated than what was going on in the like
mm,
the white settlement at the time, like because it
mm,
was just like they already had this like way of like um not entertaining themselves, but you know what I mean? Like there was a rich kind of way to appreciate the world where everywhere else was just like subsiding, like just
mm,
surviving in it, like they're
mm.
just like just, you get through it and
Yeah, well, and trying to force like the old world into the new world, like
yes.
even the crops and stuff like that came up a lot actually in the book. Like I remember when there's that like little, I forget who goes to Brisbane and the
Fraser.
Fraser, yeah. Really funny thing about that section as well is how like Brisbane at that time it was like just a really tiny shithole town with like planks over the to walk
Yeah, it was
over the
like
mud and
Deadwood.
shit. Yeah, yeah. But like but Fraser viewed it as like this paradise in comparison. He was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, they've got barbershops. Oh, I can
Yeah.
like wash properly."
Yeah.
Like and like I love those descriptions like being but then there's also I think it's in a conversation when he's talking with the governor. The governor is hilarious too, by
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way. Like
Was that
but
Herbert or Sir George or whatever?
Sir George, I think. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think Herbert was the premier, but
Right,
or
okay.
something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so uh I think it's in their discussions with Sir George, and it's like someone comes in and they're like, "Oh yeah, we just made some asparagus work. People told me it'd be too wet down here, but we made it work." That's sort of
Mm.
like trying to force in like, crops from other parts of the world into Australia, and that being a kind of like trying to make that happen rather than, in contrast to the Aboriginal people who just sort of like they know they know what they're doing here,
Yeah, yeah,
which was
yeah.
pretty funny. Um, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I also think like when you say that point about going to Africa and you got your lush rainforests and fruit and stuff like that. That is actually you have that in a very far north here, but that was
Yeah.
also like the last place that was settled. Like so it's like it's a very long trip to sort of settle that kind of area. Which is it's pretty funny that
Mm,
that you have to get through all that kind of arid, dry shit. Um, but yeah, like I think, it was a good read, and there is a like kind of weird, kind of oniric haziness to it. Like I said before, that it sort of doesn't follow a kind of. It's not a big book either. Like it's not this kind of
mm.
like historical fiction tome. This is a real genre in Australia, and it is a problem, I think, with the
Like the
big.
Peter Fitzsimmons kind of thing.
No, not that, because normally but yes, yeah, that is a
Yeah.
problem. But like the big tome, he does sort of just straight history, so to speak.
Right.
But like I'm talking about historical fiction where it's like just like people
Oh,
think that because they've done all this research or whatever into the period, that it's all got to go in the novel. And I'm just like, stop doing that. You got to do what like David Malouf does. You got to make it sort of like, what is this? Like 200 something pages? Not even that, probably. Um, and you've got to give like a sense of it. Do all the research, but don't put it all in there. Like, just have it in the back of your head while you're writing. I don't want to read a treatise on colonial Queensland, please.
oh
Please
yeah.
don't do
God
that.
no. Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem with a lot of books where it's just like too much is in there, and like he has like kind of more of like a like you can see there's like a vision with it, and like he's got a it's not he's not trying to educate you about like colonial Australia. That's just like the setting or whatever. But
Hmm.
it's more about like language and perception and things like that. Than it is about like and it's obviously you probably heard of the story of the like the actual Jemmy that washed up and stuff and was like, well, that is interesting. So yeah, like I know I was pretty impressed with him as a writer. Like I'd heard the name a million times and stuff like that, and because it was just like, oh, Australian ABC fiction, I was like, oh, it's probably going to be like,
ABC fiction.
oh, you
Is
know what I
that what it
mean?
was?
That's like, well, that's the association I have of it. Is
Oh,
just like that.
okay.
It's like, well, even the audiobook was like it had a little ABC logo down in the
No, I did
corner.
it.
So
Yeah.
so yeah, but yeah, no, it's a good book, and
I did notice when I was researching as well that the ABC did do a couple of tributes, but like, podcasts and things like that. But to be honest, like I didn't actually think it was quite enough because like normally when, a literary figure dies, the ABC does do like, they'll do a segment on the book show, they'll do a segment on conversations, they'll do a segment on something else or whatever. Like they'll do it on all different shows, but like he just got like a couple of mentions. Like he got one book show kind of sort of tribute, and that was just like a rehashed interview from a couple of years ago. And then that was about it. And like he's actually a pretty important writer. So it's like
yeah,
it felt like a bit like what the you know, I've got my complaints about the ABC. What the fuck are they doing? Like, I mean, I think at this point, I'm with everyone who says it should just be defunded because
oh yeah, yeah,
it's not really, you know, there should be like wall to wall culture coverage about David Malouf and his career because he was an important Australian writer. That's the kind of shit that the ABC is for, you know? And if it's not going to do that, go away. You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, I wonder, like, were they worried that if someone picked up that book and were like, "Oh, it's not sensitive enough," like that we wouldn't be able to like, because imagine being like an ABC person and trying to like justify this book now in this year,
Mm,
like you'd have, even if you did like it, you'd still be like, oh, but this could come across as problematic to like,
mm,
you'd have to spend like disclaimer, like, remember this was written in the 90s where it
mm.
was a different world. So
I wouldn't
yeah,
be surprised if someone who works at the ABC did these annotations too, by the way.
yeah.
Like, so,
That's just
or,
like all of the
yeah.
reasons are like, yeah, we can't really do a proper tribute for his death. Too many blacks in the book, like,
Too
yeah,
many
as in
blacks.
the word black.
Yeah, I know, yeah, I know.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, and so, but also like David Malouf has like the woke credentials because like he's Lebanese, he's gay, and so it's like, come on, like,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
from that perspective, um, I really want to point out something really funny that I found. And I know on this show and other associated shows, we love to clown on Reddit people.
Oh yeah.
But I found the funniest subreddit, not subreddit, like what's a post on Reddit, I guess. While I was sort of researching, I always love to look on Reddit to see what people are saying about this book, about books. Um, uh, So the subject of this post is remembering Babylon, David Malouf, the motif of flies. So flies is in the insect. As I was reading the text, I realized there were several mentions of flies, which I can list out upon request. With the apparent mention at the shit stain scene. So there is it's a scene where like someone's shit gets like smeared all over the walls. And then so basically they list that scene, like an excerpt from the scene, and then just talk about how there's flies. And then like it's like after that, they're like, is it possible to claim that flies were a motif of wildness and indigeneity that the colonists vehemently reject? Are there more nuanced interpretations? I'm
Yeah,
like,
I
what
don't
the
know. Yeah.
fuck? What are you saying? You're saying indigenous people are flies? What, like,
Like the flies are like some symbol of like unwanted.
yeah, but like
uh,
it's one of those things where it's like that was clearly just a cause and effect thing. Shit is going to attract flies, and also there are a lot of flies in that part of Queensland. Like
yeah,
so, it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
um, so
Honestly,
I
there wasn't that many mentions of
no,
flies.
there wasn't.
That
That's what
scene
that
is
was
the only
just
one I
in.
can think of.
Yeah, that's the only one I could think of either. Um, yeah. What did they say? Like, I lost the comment. Someone said,
Shut up,
yeah,
idiot.
yeah, basically, but in a nice Reddity way,
Oh yeah.
essentially. Which is so, I just found that so funny. It was like motif of flies. It's like
Yeah, they were trying
it
to do
was,
a big brain take
yeah, it was
there.
like one mention, like,
Yeah.
and shit was involved. Like, what?
Yeah.
Could this mean something? Yeah,
Did I just discover like a hidden part
yeah.
of this book?
The
Yeah.
key to this book is flies. Is this scene with the flies? Man, I can't stand people who read books like this. Just
Yeah.
this is like a result of like English, like t the way that English is taught, English literature is taught in high school. It's like, tell me the symbols, children, like flies.
Mm.
It's just sort of that's the level at which we're operating.
People do that with a lot of things. Like they feel like this need to like show that they've like unearthed or discovered something really interesting about a thing and like have this like big brain take on like it could be anything, just like some crappy movie or a band or something, and then they're like I don't know. I just hear it all the time with people that I'm like, yeah, just keep working on it. Like, you know, you- or I'll just be like, you don't have to like have discovered like a something no one else has discovered about this book. You can just read it and like it. You know what I mean? You don't like, I mean, if you do discover a thing, that's fine. Like if you're like, hey, I noticed this and you go, well, that's actually interesting. But you just get this sense they're like, it was the other way around. They were like, I want to discover a hidden motif of this
Mm,
book. And then they read the book and they're like, well, they mentioned flies 3 times. Maybe that's it, you know?
mm,
Like,
mm.
so
There's also a sense as well that I feel like, you can unpack this stuff and, I've done this before. Or we've done it on the show
yeah.
sometimes, but like there is also a sense that like sometimes you just want to leave that, and you want to let it work on you without you unpacking it and like naming it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like
No,
you get
exactly. Yeah.
you get a better experience when you just don't do that and like
Well,
not even like you can think it maybe but not just sort of like express it, just let it sort of you know settle like those sort of motifs and associations and things.
well, that's how like for podcasting is like I don't like read the book and be trying to like what's my take and all that. I just
Yeah.
read it, and then when we start talking, usually like some idea pops into my head, and
Mm.
if I think it's like not retarded, I'll like say it, and
Well,
then
even if it is retarded, I
yeah, I
want you
mean,
to
yeah,
say it,
it
so
probably is retarded, but like you know what I mean, like but I'm not, yeah, like I just to like what's the angle? I've got to have some unique take on this thing. Like I feel like that's when you start coming up with these real like crowbarred bad takes and stuff if
mm.
you're trying to like come up with it. Whereas if you just let it happen, yeah, like what you're saying, you just let it simmer and like yeah, it usually takes like for me like conversation with someone else, like they'll say something and then that triggers something in my brain to go like, oh yeah, maybe this is something worth mentioning. Um,
Yeah, which is why you should you should talk about books with someone.
mm.
If you can't, if you're the only reader in your sort of social group, you've got to find someone online or something like that because you can get so much more out of it when you have someone to bounce kind of ideas
Yeah,
off.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Start a book club.
Yeah.
Or,
Just talk
actually,
to fucking AI about books if you got no
yeah,
friends.
maybe, maybe. I remember speaking of book clubs, I remember when I still lived in Brisbane, I started like a gay guy book club,
Yeah, yeah.
and I was the only one who read the
I
books.
thought you were gonna say
And
you're the
like,
only one that was gay.
yeah.
No, really? You're the only one that
Yeah,
read
yeah,
the
I was the
books.
only one who read the books all the way through and had something to say about them. And then it was just an excuse for everyone to get drunk, obviously. And I'm like,
Right.
eventually I just sort of lent into that, and then it for the first like month or so, like I think it was a couple of months actually, because we did a book a month. Um, yeah, and then after that, it just became a piss up. And I was like, I'm
Yeah.
fine with that. I like
Yeah.
drinking too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's important to talk about books with people because otherwise it's just sort of like, I don't know. Um, it's kind of lonely.
Yeah.
It's a solitary activity, but there's gotta like you can get more out of it. I think it can be more social than you expect, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah, yeah. You gotta like accept like you can't most people aren't gonna be interested or like you can't really speak to most people. But yeah, like I don't know. Yeah, find some weirdo on the internet and start a podcast with them or something like and
Yeah, and talk about and compare notes about what like annotations you
yeah.
had in your. Oh, this is the other funny thing annotation that I forgot to mention. Um, so there's an epigraph, and it's like a William Blake poem, and then a poem from John Clare. Um, and the annotation that they've put. Can you read that?
Epigraph.
Yeah, it's just epigraph
Yeah. Oh, it's gonna.
with an
Yeah, it's gonna.
exclamation point next to the William Blake epigraph. I'm like, well spotted.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like that person like when you're talking and they know the word for something and they just have to be like, that's called a that. That's a weird note, epigraph.
But the explanation point as well is
Like unless it was
hilarious.
like a high school student and it was like find an epigraph in this book and like find it. But that wasn't a high schooler's handwriting. That was an
No,
old
it
man's
wasn't. That was
handwriting.
an old man or woman,
Yeah.
possibly. I don't know. It seems a bit
That
scrawly
was
to be a
someone who was
woman's.
like they were like beaten with metal rulers across their knuckles until their handwriting was neat. You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah,
that's that kind of handwriting.
yeah. Anyway, do you have any other notes or thoughts on this book?
Um, I didn't write down a single note, so
Neither did I.
no. Yeah, so a lot of the podcasts, I have like a piece of paper and it's got like the name of the book, and then it's just nothing underneath it.
Just to remind you what book we're talking
Well, like
about this
sometimes I
week. Yeah.
do, yeah, like
Yeah.
sometimes I do write notes. Sometimes there's a lot, like the Rolling Stones when I had like pages and stuff. But yeah, this
Mm,
book, no. So, um, no,
mm.
I can't think of anything else to add.
Yeah, would you recommend?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think if you wanted, yeah, if you want to, this is, I don't know, because people always say where to start with an author or whatever. This is a
This
good
is where
place
I
to
started.
start. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, we will also do Ransom because I really like that book. And An Imaginary Life is really good as well. And what's that other one? It's another historical fiction one. Um, The Conversations at Curlew Creek. I haven't read that, but I've heard that's good as well.
Okay.
Um, but he was interesting in that he stopped after Ransom, which was 2009, he stopped writing novels. And he still lived, like he died this year, so he still lived
Yeah.
like 20 years after that. But he just knuckled down and like wrote poetry, I think, and did lectures and things like that. Um, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what like sometimes like old guys do that. Old writers they just dedicate themselves to poetry rather than prose. Maybe they write the money makers and then they just do whatever the fuck they want for the rest of their lives, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Apparently, he's a good poet too. I haven't read his poetry, but I can imagine that based on his writing.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
was some. There was some bit like towards the end, it was like some prose that was like something about like I'm gonna butcher it, but it was like what was it? It was like about the moon like tugging at the earth and like the
I remember
sea
that.
aching towards it or something like that. But I forget exactly the wording he used, but I was like, yeah, that was nice. Like I think it was
Mm.
like the moon plucking at the earth and the like sea aching towards. But again, it was much more. It was however he wrote it was better. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, no, he's great. And he's part of my mission to like, get people aware of like really good Australian writers
Mm.
rather than fucking Trent Dalton or what's his name, the pedophile, Craig Silvey.
Uh, Craig Silver, yeah. Craig Silver.
Oh, you've got a copy of
It's just
Honeybee.
still been sitting on the desk since we did the episode. I'm gonna take that to the op shop actually.
Oh my
Um,
God. Oh, you and many others,
I'm
I,
gonna
I
go. I'll
assume.
underline some things in it to just like give
Yeah,
someone
you
a,
should.
a
You
laugh.
should. Anytime
All
someone,
right, title
yeah, title, or like
chapter.
anytime there's something that could be, you should just underline anything given the context of
Yes,
his
yes.
conviction that meant, like
Getting
young,
some.
like
Yeah, getting some creepy vibes here.
yeah, yeah,
Creeper alert.
reaper alert.
Yeah.
A problematic age gap here.
Yeah.
It's just like a parent talking to their kid or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also want to I picked this up while I was in uh Dalesford. This is Catherine Susanna Pritchard, who's a really, really good Australian author. Just not really remembered. I mean, I think there's a award or something in Western Australia named after her, but she's really good. Um, Christopher Koch is really good. Going to do an episode on him soon. He wrote The Year of Living Dangerously. You've probably heard of
Oh,
that book.
okay. Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so we won't do them all. It won't turn into the Australian Literature podcast, but I want to do a little bit more of these old heads, who are
Mm.
quite good.
Yeah.
Um,
And I like that it's sort of forcing me to read that kind of stuff because yeah,
mm,
like Australian authors generally, like I'm not picking them up of my own volition.
mm,
So, but I
mm,
should,
mm.
So
Every Australian says that, don't
yeah,
they? Yeah,
yeah. Well,
but
they just need to join a podcast where the co-host suggests them.
yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right. Anything else you got to shill? Oh, yeah, we mentioned up top that yeah, you did an amazing like two-part episode on the Rolling Stones with Rare Candy, which
Yep.
was great. I found it very educational because I didn't really know much about the Stones. So I might go and have a listen to them. I love that
Right.
you were trying to sissy hypno Glenn into listening to the Kinks more too. That was really funny. It's
Yeah.
almost like you were like, "Hey, can we do an episode of the Kinks like this? Maybe like a 4-part episode." Like,
Yeah, no, well, like, I mean, like, they're, the big four of like British invasion is like the Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, and the Who. So
mm,
it's sort of bound to come up in some kind of, and because, yeah, they're a band that I know a lot about. So,
yeah,
I don't know as much about the Who, so I didn't have as many references.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. Well,
but
we
yeah,
we we already did the Kinks
I
episode,
know.
so although
Well,
you can probably do one that's a little bit more music autist like with Glenn than me because I was just letting you mansplain the Kings to me.
yeah,
So that's great. I love those episodes because I don't have to do
yeah.
anything. Um,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, if I did it with Glenn, it would probably be in like two years or something anyway. But
Mm.
they just said, I'm like, oh, if you ever do one, like he's like, oh, yeah, who else am I going to call? Uh, um. So yeah, I think with him, he would probably structure it a bit more like he's like got the like list of albums there to like keep it going along and
Mm.
stuff like that. Um.
I
But yeah,
don't even
no,
remember how we did it. I think we just did like your favorite
yeah,
albums or whatever.
yeah. I think we
Um,
just fuck.
riffs as we
I can't
always
remember
do.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a couple of years ago at least. So yeah, that's a good episode. So people should, if they haven't heard that, should go back and
Yeah.
listen to that in our catalog. And then yeah, listen to the Stones episode on Rare Candy, which is on their free feed, so you don't have to pay or
Hey.
anything. So yeah,
Yeah, you got anything else to show?
selling a bunch of records on eBay.
Oh, all right. Sure.
I've
Do you
been
want me to link your store?
nah, you don't
Send me
have
the
to do
link.
that.
You can if you
All
want.
right, why
Yeah.
not?
All right.
I don't know if anyone, if it's like mainly just I've got like a friend of mine died and I got like all of his old 7 inches and like he just had like 1,000 like punk, hardcore, weirdo, garage, like all kinds of stuff. But mostly it's like punk and hardcore sort of stuff I'm getting rid of because they're just like I've finally been like just like yeah, there's too many. I never listened to these ones or I never liked them to begin with. So I'm selling that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can put it in if anyone wants that and yeah, I mean, if you want to buy a few things, you can send me a message and we can negotiate some trip deals and stuff. Some of the prices are kind of fishing to see if anyone will pay for it,
Mm.
pay that much for it. But otherwise, yeah,
God, postage must be hell with records, especially overseas.
Well, this is the thing is I've actually started using AI to like help me draft the like eBay pages and figure out prices. AI is also retarded, I've learned.
Mm.
I didn't realize it could get maths wrong.
It
I
can get
thought,
that wrong.
yeah,
You
it'll
thought
be
you
like
thought that would be the thing that I'd actually get right, but
yeah, I thought like, oh, if you say like, something kind of a bit more where the answer might be vague or something, you might make mistakes here and there. But like, I didn't realize it just got like straight up maths wrong. Like, it's like the eBay title has to be less than 80 characters, and like, here's an optimized title that's less than 80 characters. Like, it doesn't fit in the thing. It's obviously too long. It's like, no, it's 80. And like, no, it's like, you're right. How observant of you. I was like, what? Are you trying to fucking test me here? Like, what the hell? And then sometimes it just gives you ridiculous prices. You'll be like, what do you think of this garbage hardcore 7 inch that's in bad condition? Be like, maybe like $52. And you're like, really? Like, nah, actually $8. Um,
is it doing
like,
it might be a conversion rate thing. Maybe it's
no,
saying,
I'm saying like in Australian dollars,
oh,
like
okay. Yeah.
it just like, I don't know, because it's like, I don't know how it works exactly, but and it keeps like it'll be like, all right, this is how I want it. And then like it just keeps like changing the template. Like I have a template for how I want the thing in HTML, and then it won't give it to me in HTML, and then it keeps like reintroducing things I told it to get rid of. Like
Mm.
this hype language, like here's a like bangers like punk 7 inch from the 90s make a great addition to any serious collector's like collection and I'm like can you stop with the hype language it's like oh yes actually people will appreciate when you direct and clear and then like 3 listings later it's like sticking the fucking hype language back so I was like this is almost more work than if I just typed it out
Yeah.
myself
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so yeah
Yeah,
anyway
if you want albums, yeah, we'll share a link.
yeah
This is cool. We can sell shit for the
yeah
podcast. It's amazing.
I might put
Um,
books up there one day too, but books are kind of harder to move because
they are,
really you
yeah.
can't sell them for very much, and like they yeah. So
Mm.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I've kind of gone off like I do I'm still Kindle pilled, but I'm still buying books. Like I went for a period where like I don't need to buy physical books anymore, and I don't buy as many, at least as many new ones. But I have been buying a little bit more because I've just been finding really great stuff in secondhand bookstores. So I'm just like I don't really buy many new books anymore though. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I got a problem.
Yeah. I actually haven't been going to op shops lately. For the last few
Mm,
months, I've sort of just like got to a point where I'm like, I have too many books now, and I'll
mm.
take like a bunch back to like the thrift store or whatever. Um, Keep like good stuff, obviously, but like when I'm like, I've got two different biographies on Howard Hughes, and I'm never going to read either, although I'm sure they are interesting. But I'm just like, you know what? That's the kind of thing if I want to find out, I'm just going to go on YouTube and watch like the hour and a half thing made by
Yeah,
some schizo, you know? Um,
yeah. Who's read the
so
biography and is just
exactly, yeah.
basically copying out all the good bits from the
Yeah.
biography. Yeah.
Like anything like that, like unless like I'm really interested in the subject or the author's good or something, like I'm like I'll have like a big thick thing on Napoleon. It's like, you know what? I'm probably not ever gonna read that. Like I'm sure it's good. I'm sure it's a very fascinating thing, but I'll just like, yeah, I'll watch some documentary. Like
Mm,
if I that's I don't think I can sustain interest in Napoleon over like 3 months to get through this dry kind of like biography.
yeah, 100%. Well, anyway, coming up, we've got some exciting guests. We got Lewis Wilson coming on. We're going to be talking about his new collection, The Everlasting. I've literally had this collection in my Goodreads like reading pile for ages, but it's because of the way that I read short story collections. Because I read short story collections like I'll read one story and then I'll put the collection down and then go and read like 1,000 novels or whatever and then come back to it.
Same.
But so yeah, I've got to like this is part of the reason of getting Lewis on is to like I've got to finish this fucking collection.
Yeah.
And
It's
yeah, so
good.
yeah, it is really good. And he's a great writer. Possibly one of our best working right now. And master of the short story, so it'll be good to talk to him. We're also doing an episode soon on Harold Bloom, which will be great. And also, we've got to organize this properly, but we're going to do that three-parter on the Magus with
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Ryan. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
So like that's what we got to look forward to, in addition to some other stuff as well. But
Gonna be
yeah,
doing the Blade Runner thing with Rare
yeah, we
Candy.
are. Are we? I think we're cross-posting that, aren't we?
I think so. That
Yeah,
makes yeah, that sounds right.
yeah. Year of the Fire Horse and all that. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, cool. So that'll be good. We're doing Blade Runner, which is awesome. Love that book, love that movie. I haven't seen the new one though, so I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, there's like a really new one, right? After the 2049 one, isn't
Oh,
there?
I mean the
Or
2049
oh,
one. That's
okay.
the new one to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's like 10 years old
Yeah, I
already, but
know.
yeah. Oh, it's so good. I love that movie. Like that's one movie I'll come home drunk and I'll just like put it on and I'll just like fall asleep 45 minutes in. So I've seen the beginning of that movie like 100 times. I've
Really?
seen the
Okay.
end like twice.
It's one of those. Okay.
Yeah. It
That's
rules though. It's like it's so good. Like I like it way more than the original Blade Runner.
mm,
Um,
mm.
which
Yeah,
is also good.
yeah, Blade Runner, the original is kind of like that as well, really. Like it's the kind of movie that you can kind of just put on and if you've seen it a million times, you can just fall asleep to it, sort of thing.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
All right. Well, yeah, that's what we got coming up soon. Yeah, and yeah, subscribe. The podcast is hosted on Substack now, but it's also hosted on Patreon. So you have multiple options if you want paid access. You can either pay for Patreon or Substack. Please don't pay for both. It's just like two options. I mean, if you want to pay for
Yeah,
both, you can.
why not?
But like I just like put it in as an option for my Substack because I thought it was like kind of stupid to have two podcasts for me because like it's just too much work. So
Yeah.
like I'm just like integrating it with my Substack. So you can either subscribe there or you can subscribe on Patreon for the paid content. Yeah, and I guess I don't have anything to shill either. But yeah, I guess we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.